Okay, Danny, how concerning is this loss for Philadelphia?
Pretty concerning. Like it's not panic time yet, obviously. They're 4-1 and they're the champs. But this is just objectively weird. And I remember last year when Nick Sirianni was catching heat, a lot of us were asking, like, what exactly do you do here? It feels like he has to call Kevin Patullo, the new offensive coordinator, into his office and maybe exert a little bit more control over his offense. Because I watched every snap of that game, and I know Denver's defense is excellent, but I don't understand why they are so bad offensively. If they've got a top 5 line and a top 2 running back and a top 2 wide receiver duo, and Eagles fans will tell you a top 5 quarterback, and they're all relatively healthy, why are they this inconsistent? And that just add it to the pile of weird Eagles games and specifically offensive performances. Like, we can just show you 5 games. It's not hard to remember because they're the champs. 3 points in the second half against Dallas. Dallas, bottom 3 defense in the NFL. 5 pass attempts in the second half against Kansas City. Where did it go? 1 negative net passing yard in the first half of that Rams game when you thought there was a typo on the scoreboard. Then they get outgained by 278 yards in the second half against Tampa. And then they're winning by 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter against Denver, and they run the ball 2 times. Like, I don't understand any of it.
Yeah, so
like, I don't get any of it.
I think your point about, because we talk about a lot of teams that are injured, about what's happened to them because they're injured.
Yeah.
We don't, and this is not us, it's just sports media in general. We don't very often be like, hey, one reason to be concerned, this team has been exceptionally healthy, and they don't look, totally right. Your point that Philly, I understand Landon Dickerson's been dealing with stuff,
yeah,
and Lane Johnson, right, but that's not an injury. He left the team.
Sure.
And Lane Johnson left the game but came back. But their stars, for the most part, have been there the whole time.
I'm going to let this play. I have to interject right now. I guess they really don't watch the games. I guess they really don't. Because this O-line has not been top 5. They are banged up. Like, Cam Jurgens is banged up. Landon Dickerson is banged up. Lane Johnson is banged up. Like, what are they talking about right now? This old line has not been top. The old line is a legitimate issue right now because of some injuries that they are then trying to figure out and work through. The problem is that they have to do that along with the new coordinator as well. I don't even know, man. And they just don't have an offensive identity. I have no idea what the Eagles are going to look like. And they are. And this Barnwell pointed this out. He's right. It's, adjust for inflation, I suppose. They're the most expensive offense in the history of the NFL. They are widely regarded as, Danny put out, top 5 at basically every spot, with the question being quarterback, is he top 8 instead of top 5, but whatever. And they can't have a normal game. And so I find the fact that they went from, why can't you pass? Why can't you pass? Why can't you pass? To pretending they don't have Saquon Barkley, that type of correction. Oddly more concerning than the loss. I don't really care that they're 4-1 versus 5-0. The only reason I think the loss is noteworthy is it allows us more fairly, if you will, to focus on the fact that this team has only looked right offensively for a couple quarters at a time this year, and then they've looked like the second half and the comeback against the Rams, the first half against Tampa. And the first half of the season are the only times where it's feel like, oh, that's Philly's offense humming. And so I don't get it. I feel badly just being like, it's the lowest paid guys on involved fault. The offensive coordinator. It's not the coach, it's not the quarterback, not the stars, but he is what's different. Everyone else has been there. And we don't think those players all got markedly worse. Unless the argument is the offense last year was elevated massively by Saquon's historic season. And now that Saquon's having a down year, everything's falling apart with it. But that undermines Jalen Hurts as to, that brings into question, how good is Jalen Hurts if that's the case? Are we learning, and are these guys learning in real time the importance of coaching and coordinating? Is that what we're witnessing right now? I'm going to let Brew go, but is that what we're all witnessing right now? That they're understanding the importance of coordinating and coaching this is stunning at this point. Yeah, I'm not concerned, and I agree with a lot of what you said. They don't have an identity clearly. I do have issues with the offensive coordinator. I think he's been darn near terrible this year, and yet they're still 4-1. I mean, that schedule was 5 really strong teams, and because Squan is so good, because their 2 receivers are so good, and Jalen has done it long enough, even though he gets questioned, the dude is really good. I mean, and he shows it too. Even some of the throws he made yesterday, like the long one to Devontae Smith and stuff. So they do have to work out like the balance between the run and the pass. But as far as like thinking they won't be a contender, a top tier contender in the NFC, I see nothing to feel that. Yeah. Wow. We obviously talk about the Eagles so much. They're incredibly popular. They're incredibly successful. They're a top team in the NFL, right? The problem with the conversations around the Philadelphia Eagles is that it becomes so repetitive. And the problem is it's repetitive in such a nonsensical way. What's the Rams' identity right now? What's the Kansas City Chiefs' identity? What's the Buffalo Bills' identity? What are these teams' identities that we're talking about? What's the identity of what's the Kansas City Chiefs' identity? What is it? I don't know. And don't tell me Patrick Mahomes, because that doesn't make sense. If that's their identity, Patrick Mahomes, well, not looking too hot. Not looking too hot then. And then if you say, yeah, but the receivers in this, it's like, oh, okay. So you mean that there's other people involved. So then what's the identity? What's the identity? Passing. Okay. So then do we only have like two options here between an identity? You either got to have a run identity or a pass identity. If that's the case, then how come when they had a running identity, everyone complained and said that's not good enough? And then if you pass a lot, how come other people aren't like, you got to run the ball more? So what do we mean by the identity? What are we saying? What would be the identity? I don't know. Do you want to have a single player? Do you want to have the offense run through a single player predominantly? So the identity is AJ Brown or Devontae Smith or Jalen Hurts. Like what does that mean? Seriously, I'm genuinely asking at this point, what does any of that mean? I don't get it. I really don't. And in terms of Kevin Patullo, like there are legitimate growing pains here, but here's the thing, okay? When the Eagles actually look to throw the ball, they've actually have a ton of success with it. Okay. They've been struggling to get the run game going. One, because the O-line has not been top 5. So don't tell me that you're watching every snap and you're watching all the games, then you don't realize that Jalen Hurts is top in the NFL in pressures, and Saquon Barkley is at the bottom of the NFL in yards before contact. So don't just make stuff up now about that then, because that's not accurate. Now, pro part of that is, one, like I said, the O-line is legitimately banged up. Now, again, this is where we've been talking a lot about O-lines recently, last year and this season for that matter. What people fail to understand is that if you have a banged up O-line, if you have a bunch of backups, or you have people that are just banged up and they're not playing at their full strength, there's just such a spectrum of how compromised an O-line can or can't be, or the teams that you're playing and your ability to be able to overcome it. Let's take the Kansas City Chiefs as the perfect example. Their line was seemingly fine throughout the playoffs, right up until they faced the Philadelphia Eagles, who absolutely put an avalanche on Patrick Mahomes in that offense. And yet, that O-line was totally okay. We could say, oh, they replaced all these people and they had this guy in that position and this guy had to move. All that stuff is true, but they were able to make do. But the Buffalo Bills weren't able to do what the Philadelphia Eagles did, right? They weren't. The Houston Texans weren't able to. And yet the Houston Texans were able to get a pass rush all day against Justin Herbert and the Los Angeles Chargers. So when other teams point out, well, so-and-so's O-line is bad and they're able to make, and it's like, it all depends. Is it actually that bad? Well, they're injured. Okay, how are their backups? What's going on? And so the Eagles right now are currently just going through that phase of things. Not to mention, as we now talked about pretty much every week, except for week 1, that the Eagles play calling has been quite predictable, quite predictable. So they find themselves consistently in obvious passing downs and obvious rushing downs, you know. So this is something that they are figuring out. But to say it's confusing why the Philadelphia Eagles lost to another top team. It's just, is it confusing when any great team loses to another great team? Like, I don't understand. Was it confusing why the Bills lost to the Patriots? Was it confusing why the Chiefs lost to the Jags? Was it confusing why the Eagles beat the Chiefs in the Super Bowl? Was it confusing why the Commanders beat the Bucks? Was it confusing why the Eagles beat the Bucks? No. So then why is it confusing that the Broncos were able to beat the Eagles? They had a comeback win. There were 6 comeback wins in just week 5 alone. It's not a big deal. It's not a big thing. Coming down from 2 scores is just the NFL right now. Do the Eagles need to be better? Absolutely. Does Kevin Patullo need to be better at play calling? Absolutely. Absolutely. I think it was great in that Bucks game they were talking about how the new offensive play caller for the Bucks, who did call 3rd and 4th downs. So he does have some experience, but they asked him, they talked about this in the broadcast, Kevin, whatever with Tom Brady was like, you know, how did you get ready to start calling plays? And he's like, I watched college games and I called the plays. I was a little confused by exactly what he meant by that. Honestly, if like he was calling the plays before the college game, like even, you know, like was he just practicing what he would have called in those moments? And then he was trying, like I was a little confused by exactly what he meant, but regardless, he was actually doing things to try to you know, practice those muscles to strengthen the play calling muscles. I don't know what Covino is doing. I have no idea. I have no idea what he's done to prepare for this moment. I don't know what type of conversations he's having. I don't know what type of influence has. Like, I don't know. But, well, you know what's really just gross at this point and just downright absurd? Questioning Jalen Hurts in this moment. Like Nick just pretty much tried to do when he was like, well, you know, what does it say about Jalen Hurts? What does it say about Patrick Mahomes then that he couldn't win a game without his receivers around him? Like, what does that mean then? What does it mean about Patrick Mahomes that when he did experience pressure, when his O-line couldn't make do, he got dominated? What does that say about Patrick Mahomes? Because if you're supposed to be considered a great quarterback, aren't you supposed to transcend those things? And if not, then why would we not give someone like Jalen Hurts the benefit of the doubt? Like that's the thing that I'm just finding increasingly absurd at this point. And like I keep saying about Jalen Hurts, you can't say, well, Super Bowls are this, that, because Jalen Hurts is a literal Super Bowl winner. He is a Super Bowl MVP. Once upon a time, you used to be able to say that, well, Patrick Mahomes gets the benefit of the doubt because he's a Super Bowl winner. This, that, and the third. He doesn't get the, you know, he gets a benefit of the doubt that a Hurts doesn't, that a Josh Allen doesn't, that a Lamar doesn't. Well, Jalen Hurts is in the Super Bowl private club and the Super Bowl MVP private club. So again, which is it? He was also a Super Bowl. He was also a regular season MVP candidate. He was going to win if he didn't get injured. But so he get more benefit of doubt if he just officially won that MVP, or if he now wins another Super Bowl, then he'll be allowed to get benefit of the doubt. Like, it just doesn't make any sense. It really doesn't. So to even like throw that iron into the fire is just like, what are we doing, man? Like, wait, what is the conversation then? This is like Jalen Hurts is like 37th offensive coordinator. I mean, like it's always something that Jalen has to kind of rework, relearn, and get reintegrated with. And now his run game is not there, and his O-line is not there. And Troy Aikman said this the other day on Monday night, not against the Jags, I think it was the game before. He said, see, the best thing you could do to support a quarterback is protect them and get the run game going. That's what he said. And it's funny because it's just like there's so many different variations of that. The best thing to do to help a quarterback is have a great defense, right? You know, like whatever it is. But this is what Troy Aikman said, you know, protect a quarterback and have a great run game. It's like, yeah, that makes sense. Makes sense for every quarterback, every team. Well, the Eagles have not been able to protect Jalen Hurts right now. and they haven't been able to get the run game going, and yet they've still been able to be 4-1. Could you imagine if they can now start to get healthier, start to protect him better, and get the run game going? How do you think this offense will look? Is it good enough to win a Super Bowl? I don't think we have to guess that. I think we actually have the legitimate answer for that. Yeah, we have the legitimate answer for that. Also, Jalen Hurts now, by passing more, whether it be a half, whether it be for, whatever, whether it's against the Broncos, whether it was against the Rams, whatever, he's proven to have the ability to pass the ball, right? To throw the ball. Yeah, he's proven that. So they know he can do it, right? Yeah. And he's had to do it in moments when they couldn't run the ball, and it was all obvious passing downs, obvious passing points in moments of the game, and he's been wildly successful. Wildly successful. So, what does that tell you? That when everyone and their mother knows that Jalen Hurts is going to throw the ball, and they still can't even protect him, he succeeds. So, we know that they're not hiding him. We know that they're not lacking trust in him. They're just trying to figure out what is the best possible game plan right now. What is the best possible balance in this offense? And the problem is the mentality was clearly like, hey, we're just going to run the ball in a lot of moments. We don't care that they know we're going to trust our O-line. We're going to trust Saquon to break through, and we're good. And that has not happened in these first handful of games. And so they're kind of like, uh-oh, what do we do? How do we figure this out right now? And so then I understand that even against the Denver Broncos, they're up by 14. And they're like, well, we've been passing the ball a lot. Let's just keep up with that right now. It's been successful. We haven't been able to get the run game going very much, so let's just keep passing. And it was a mistake. But that's what happens when you have a brand new play caller. So this is something that Kevin Poulo has to figure out. Undeniably, I don't think there is a single Eagle fan rejecting that or denying that. But to pretend like you can't grasp where some of these issues are coming from, and to just pretend like you're saying that the Eagles are just perfectly healthy and everything's all A-okay, that's not the reality of the situation right now. Now, there's other teams that again, that are more injured, undeniably as well. But like I've already emphasized, this is all on a spectrum. You have other teams that have worse O-lines, technically speaking, with injuries and backups and stuff, and yet they're able to protect their quarterback better. So that's why the comments that people will flood and say, I don't want to hear excuses. So-and-so has a, or whatever it is. It's just like, that doesn't make any sense. That argument fundamentally does not make any sense. So this is something that the Eagles do have to figure out. It's a combination between them actually getting healthy, because it seemingly, this entire O-line minus Mailata is banged up and is playing like, 80% or so. I think Cam Jurgens is still dealing with a back problem that he then had to miss a playoff game last. I think he missed the NFC Championship game. I'm pretty sure it was Cam Jurgens. Landon Dickerson had knee surgery. Lane Johnson has been struggling all season. He's old. He's like 36 or whatever the heck he is, right? Like there's real things that they have to figure out. And like I said, and a new coordinator to boot, all things that they're working through. And you're expecting them just to be able to have all the answers by week 5. Why? Why? Doesn't make any sense. It makes no sense. And for a team that's 4-1, they've had the hardest schedule and beat the best teams. They beat the most bulk of high quality teams compared to any of the other top teams. That's just a fact. When you look at who the Bucks beat, Eagles beat the Bucks and beat better teams. When you look at the 49ers, the Eagles beat better teams. When you look at the Chargers, they beat better teams. When you look at the Broncos, they beat better teams. When you just go down the list of all the teams, beat higher quality teams in the Seahawks, beat higher quality teams in the Lions, beat higher quality teams than the Packers, beat higher quality teams in the Bills, beat higher quality teams than the Steelers, beat higher quality teams than the Colts. It's just a reality. And I'm not knocking those teams. And I'm not even saying that that's evidence that the Eagles that's proof that the Eagles are the best team. It's like they've been in tough situations, in tough games, and they're 4-1. So they've had to now figure it out against the best competition. They didn't get a run at the Tennessee Titans, at a J.J. McCarthy Minnesota Vikings team, a Russell Wilson New York Giants. They didn't have any of that. Now they have the Giants. It's going to be interesting with the Carson Wentz and the Minnesota Vikings. I assume it's going to be Carson. Then they get the New York Giants again. Kind of a ridiculous schedule. I don't know why the NFL did that, where they're going to be like, let's have New York team New York. Doesn't make any sense. And then the Packers and the Lions will be interesting. Be an interesting rematch between the Cowboys. Who knows what the heck the Chargers are going to look like by week 14. That thing Justin Herbert could just be like, I'm done, man. You can't protect me. Like, get me out of here. The Raiders have been a mess. And then week 16, 17, 18 really become completely unpredictable because to me, those final 3 weeks, you need to know what's at stake. Like, what's at stake? I don't know what week 18 means for anyone. Is everyone solidified in their standings? Either the Commanders or the Eagles? Like, I don't know. And the Bills, too, the way how this is unfolding right now, the Bills might have the #1 seed locked. They might be battling with the Colts or the Jags, like, you know, I don't know. And so that might be still a game that they're obviously going to have their starters in, but they're not, you know. Or it might be, oh my God, we got to come away with this win. We cannot afford to drop to the Eagles, like, and it could just be a battle to the end, like, you know, I don't know, but this was always a harder schedule, right? Going up against the Chiefs, the Rams, the Bucks, the Broncos, the Minnesota Vikings, great defense, their offense. We'll see what's coming along with them. The Packers have been great. The Lions have been great. Obviously, the Cal, you know, I'm skipping the divisional games because obviously they're in their division. But the Cowboys and the Commanders, and then again, the Chargers is a question mark. And then you got, you know, the easier games are going to be the Giants, the Raiders, and that's really it. Because again, the Bears are also kind of a coin flip of like, I don't know who's Caleb Williams by week 13. I don't know. So I don't know what this team could do that would make everyone so happy right now, considering the circumstances. Considering the circumstances, those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about the Philadelphia Eagles? How concerned are you for how the Eagles are playing right now and what this means for them? What this means for Jalen Hurts and how good they are or how good he is? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, whether you agree with me or disagree with me. Either way, let's get in some discussions, let's get in some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. Please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it, and please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.